This video is going to get into a feedback of light and dark. It's going to be kind of weird. Anyway, all right. I don't know what to tell you about your cough. I'm kind of worried. But yeah, maybe you should see a doctor just in case. About the Sasquatch. I live in deep South Texas. There's no Sasquatch. Well, not around here anyway. All right, so I got 3 stories. One of them's about UFO. Another one's about burglars in my house. And, a monster in the attic. I'm going to start with the monster in the attic. I wish I had a prop. I need a little prop, but you have to use it. Uh-oh, what's going on here? Okay. Well, okay, here we go. Well, I have this. This is perfect. Okay. If it can come out in the video. All right, so my brother and I shared a room when we were little, and my parents were remodeling the house, and my dad was going to put in a new ceiling in our room. And we lived on the top floor of a 2-story house, a very old house. And this house has like grates in the attic to let the hot air from the attic out to keep the house cool. It's a common feature in houses. But this is an older house with a flat roof, and it has these rectangular grates, and it's a grate. It's like I don't know, it's like metal bars, but making little squares. So anyway, there was no ceiling in our room, and moonlight could come in through those grates. And because there was no ceiling, and there's wires exposed, well, my little brother would look up, and he would see eyes looking down at him. He was very scared, and I didn't know what to tell him. He was crying, and he was really scared, and he thought there was a monster up there. And so we called my dad, and my dad's real smart. And he noticed that there was a wire, and the wire had like a bend in it. It actually had 2 bends in it, but I can't put it in the camera. So here we go. The wire had 2 bends in it like this. And at the top parts of the wire, and it was a white wire, moonlight would come into the grates and hit only the crest of that little wire. And so there were only 2 points in the wire that were lit up by the moonlight. And so for my little brother, he thought there were eyes staring at him. But they weren't. It was just a wire. And then after my dad explained to him what it was, he wasn't scared anymore. All right. A few years later, something really weird happened. We had to call the police. And, okay, what happened? We had some kind of outing earlier in the day, and my parents bought us, me and my little brother, some balloons, helium balloons, and that was a real treat for little kids back then, I guess. And so we had those balloons, and we took care of them. We took them back to the house, and then we forgot about them. We left them in a room, and we went on our merry way and started playing or whatever. And yeah, we didn't mess with the balloons all day. And then nighttime came, and it must have been a weekend. No, it couldn't have been a weekend because my parents were watching Johnny Carson. Maybe it was a summer. I don't know. It didn't feel like a school night. And my brother and I were watching TV in our room, and we decided to build forts out of our beds and pillows and all kinds of stuff like that. So we were ransacking our room. We were having a grand old time. And we could hear our parents laughing very loudly. And after a while, we wanted to go see what they were laughing at. So we went downstairs and we started watching Johnny Carson with them. I don't know if you know what Johnny Carson is. It's like the Tonight Show. And then after a while, we got bored of watching Johnny Carson. It's a show for adults. It's not a show for little kids, really. And so when we stopped understanding the jokes, we got bored, and we decided to go back to our room. So as we were walking up the stairs, we heard loud bangs, and we didn't know what they were. So we ran downstairs, and we told my dad, "Dad, there's somebody upstairs." It's your imagination. Just don't worry about it. He told us. So we went back upstairs, and on the way back up, I heard it again. And I went back and I was like, "Dad, there's somebody up there." Now, my dad's a Vietnam combat vet. So he has rifles in his room, in his closet, that's upstairs. So he doesn't have access to his guns when there's an intruder upstairs. So, after I told my dad the second time there's somebody up there, he went to go check. And on his way up, he heard the sound. And he ran downstairs. We called the police. And within about 2 minutes, the police were there. And I remember the police cars driving to our house so fast, and they had to brake so abruptly when they arrived that their brakes were steaming. It was like steam coming off of the brakes. I'll never forget it. And they began to go upstairs, and they heard the sound. So they ran back, and they called for backup. And before you knew it, there was, 4 or 5 police cars outside of our house at night. The neighbors were beginning to gather, and there was quite a scene. And the police went into the house, and they didn't find anything. There was nothing they could do. They checked. They heard the sound, but when they went up there, they didn't find anything. Well, there's nobody there. So we couldn't explain what happened, but we all heard it. Many hours later, my dad figured out what it was. My little brother and I had bought those balloons, and we forgot about them in that room that had a ceiling fan that was turned on. And so the balloons were moving around the room because of the current that the ceiling fan was creating. Now, the space in between the blades of the fan and the ceiling is not that much space. The balloons were sufficiently large enough that as they orbited around the ceiling fan, every once in a while, they would get sucked into it, and they would get caught in between the blade and the ceiling. And when they did that, it made a loud noise. And that's the noise that we heard. There were no burglars. Okay. When I was a teenager, I thought I saw a UFO because, yeah, I was heartbroken at the time and I was crying my eyes out for some girl. And it was like 2 in the morning, really late at night. And I saw a satellite. And I've seen satellites before. They're pretty cool, but once you know what they are, they're a little mundane. So I saw the satellite, and then I saw another one follow the first one. And I'd never seen that before. And I tracked it for about a minute, and then it went beyond the horizon. I didn't see it again. And I thought for sure that's a UFO. I saw a UFO. Many years went by. Then it occurred to me, I didn't see a UFO. I saw a space station being resupplied, and I just didn't know what I was looking at. Yeah. And later on, sorry, those are the 3 stories, but later on in college, I took a class called pseudoscience. And that class was all about debunking supernatural phenomenon. And I do believe in aliens, but not in the way that people talk. So, yeah, I don't know. It's real hard for me to believe supernatural things. I used to believe in the Sasquatch, um, but yeah, I had this other class in college, and my geology teacher, who's from Canada, incidentally, um, he kept on saying the word skidoo, and nobody knew what he meant. And finally, I mean, this is Texas. We don't have skidoos. And he was telling a story, and he kept on saying the word skidoo, and then finally, a student said, "What's a skidoo?" And he said, "Oh yeah, y'all don't know what that is. It's a snowmobile." Oh, okay. Well, anyways, so this teacher, this geology teacher, I don't remember his name. He's a pretty good teacher, but anyway, he was a pilot, and he said, you know, most of the Earth is pretty occupied by people, inhabited by people, and sometimes you might be driving down some road, and you'll be looking like into a forest, and you'll think, wow, that forest goes on for miles. But if you get into an airplane and you fly over, you'll notice every few miles there's something else made by humans. You really can't go very far on planet Earth without running into people. Now, I realize that they discover like spiders and lizards that they've never discovered before, like living in Los Angeles and stuff. But those are little animals. Um, a big animal, like a Sasquatch, I think we would have found it by now. I could be wrong, but I did value that geology teacher's opinion about the Earth is pretty inhabited. Um, like the only place that I guess wasn't too inhabited was Antarctica, and this teacher, this geology teacher, did research in Antarctica, and he showed us pictures and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, this guy had been a few places, and when he said you really can't go very far without running into something else made by people, yeah, that kind of, there's no such thing as Sasquatch. uh, but I could be wrong. Anyways, adios.